So in this class we are going to discuss about first chapter of class 12, solid state. In that we are going to learn about types of unit cells, what is a unit cell and what is a crystal lattice. So to begin with, we'll start with unit cell. Unit cell and crystal lattice. You guys might have observed when a tiles arranger arranges the tiles on your ground, if you consider 4 different tiles such as like this, so all the tiles have same kind of shape or design on them. Let us say we have a flower bracket like this over here, something like in the shade of this. Okay, so this is one end, and similarly we have 4 ends similar to this, like this. So if we say we have a center of these tiles over here, and we arrange 4 tiles one next to the other such as like this, so consider this as the center of our each tile, and considering replicating this tile design on all the 4 tiles, we get a circle at this point similar to like this. So this generates a kind of a shape arranged by 4 tiles causing one single circle. So if you consider these 4 parts, now the center of these 4 tiles is, and join them to form a square. So leaving off all this, we now just forming a particular flower design at the center of all the 4 tiles where they are meeting. This in our solid state chapter we call them as motifs or bases. We call them as motif or basis. That is a point on which the complete tiles are arranged. In case of our solid state, a motif or basis is called as a point on which a unit cells are arranged in 3 dimensions to generate a respective crystal lattice. So now, what is a unit cell for that matter? A unit cell is an arrangement of constituents of a crystal lattice. So that is, if we take this as a point of arrangement which are equidistant from one another in a 2-dimensional space. So if we arrange a molecule, let us say an HCl molecule is arranged. So this is an HCl molecule. If we arrange this HCl molecule on this point like this, so if I am going to draw it, so it will be like one atom over there and one atom over here. Okay, similarly we get multiples of this in all the points. Such as like this. If we bond them together, so we can clearly say they have formed a kind of formation of structure. So a motif or basis in a crystal lattice is the particular point at which a geometry of a crystal lattice can be defined. So if we arrange a unit cell joining these points in 3 dimensions, we get a crystal lattice. So these 4 points are joined over here. So we have orange on these points and pink on the other sides. Okay, so now this is now forming a unit cell. So what is a unit cell? A unit cell is a small part of a constituent of a crystal lattice which is arranged in 3 dimensions. So this is a 2 dimension. If you arrange it one in the front, so this is an arrangement of 3 dimension. A unit cell is a small constituent part of a crystal lattice which is arranged in 3 dimensions such that it gives a crystal lattice similar to a unit cell. So if we arrange matchboxes in 3 dimensions, we get a huge geometry of a matchbox. If you arrange cubes on one over the other symmetrical to the Rubik's cube, so one cube reflects the whole cube, right? So a unit cell is a small part of a crystal lattice which is arranged in space or in 3 dimensions to give a crystal lattice geometry. So what is a crystal lattice? A crystal lattice is also called a space lattice. Space lattice, that means the point on which a crystal's structure can be drawn or crystal's geometry can be formed. Space lattice or a crystal lattice is a point on which the geometry of a solid, crystalline solid, can be formed. So this geometry of a crystalline solid will be of different types, such as it may be a unit cell of just 8 atoms present in them. So that we're going to discuss about the types of unit cell in the next topic. So now a crystal lattice, if you have to define them, these are the lattice points arranged in a three-dimensional arrangement so that we can find the geometry of a given crystal solid. So this space lattice or crystal lattice, what we call them as a point, can be arranged in multiple types. Like for example, we have found that two types of lattice point arrangement. So that is, first one we call them as lattice A point, lattice A type, and the other one is lattice B type. One is lattice A type and the other one is lattice B type. So what is this lattice A type? If you arrange lattice points equidistant from one another and exactly above one another or exactly in front or behind one another, just like this. If you arrange lattice points in this manner, then this manner of arrangement of lattice point is called lattice A type of arrangement. So this type of arrangement is called lattice A type of arrangement. Now lattice B type of arrangement is formed when one layer of points is arranged between the other layer, such as like this, sandwiching between those gaps. If the lattice points are arranged in this manner, then that type of manner is called lattice B type, which we generally find in building a lab. Bricks used to build. Okay, so bricks are arranged like such as like this. So if this is the first layer of brick, the second layer of brick will be exactly at the center for the joining of those first layer. So this type of arrangement of lattice points is called lattice B type of arrangement. Next we are going to discuss about is types of unit cells. Next we are going to discuss about is different types of unit cells. A unit cell is classified into four types, two types in basic. Unit cell is classified into two types. One is primitive unit cell, or it is also called as the simple unit cell, primitive unit cell or simple unit cell. And the second one is centered unit cell. First one is primitive unit cell and the second one is centered unit cell. A primitive unit cell is one in which we have a simple cube. If you consider a simple cube such as like this, so if this is a simple cube, so if we just draw one line between there, so this is a three-dimensional simple cube. A primitive unit cell is one in which there are 8 atoms present at the 8 corners of this given unit cell. So if a unit cell contains 8 atoms at its 8 corners, so these are the 8 corners. So if there is an atom present in each of the 8 corners of a given unit cell, then that unit cell is called primitive unit cell. So this is our primitive unit cell. So this primitive unit cell has only 8 atoms present in each of the 8 corners of its unit cell. Next, for the centered unit cell, a centered unit cell is a type of unit cell which has 8 atoms similar to the primitive unit cell present at each of the corners, and along with those 8 atoms they have further 1 or more atoms present anywhere at the unit cell. So depending on the presence of those particular extra atoms at a particular position, we classify centered unit cell into 3 more parts. Those are body centered unit cell, face centered unit cell, and then end centered unit cell. Depending on the presence of an additional atom with respect to a primitive unit cell, we consider or classify centered unit cell as three types: body centered unit cell, face centered unit cell, and end centered unit cell. So now for the structure of those three, so if we write down the first body centered unit cell, a body centered unit cell has 8 atoms present in the 8 corners of its unit cell and 1 atom exactly at its center. So if these are the 8 atoms present in 8 corners, and along with these 8 atoms there will be one more atom present exactly at the center of the cube. So this will be completely inside the cube and at the center. So this type of is called body centered unit cell. So this type of unit cell is called body centered unit cell. A body centered unit cell has 8 atoms present exactly at the 8 corners and 1 additional atom present exactly at the center of the cube. So that is called body centered unit cell. Next, for the face centered unit cell, it has 8 atoms at the 8 corners. It has 8 atoms each at the 8 corners, and along with those 8 atoms it has 6 additional atoms. So now first we'll write down the 8 atoms at the corners. So these are the 8 atoms at the 8 corners, and additional to those 8 atoms, face centered unit cell has 6 atoms present at the center of each of the 6 phases. So a cube has, or a unit, this cube has 6 phases and it has 6 atoms present at the center of each of the 6 phases. So these are the 6 phases, one behind and one up front. So there are 6 atoms present at the 6 phases of a unit cell. So this type is called face centered unit cell. This type is called face centered unit cell. And the last one is end centered unit cell. This again has 8 atoms at the 8 corners. Eight atoms at the 8 corners. We'll just write it down first. And then it has 2 atoms. It has exactly 2 atoms present on any 2 opposite phases and at their center. So it has 2 additional atoms at the center of any 2 opposite phases. It should be any 2 opposite phases only, not other. So if we consider the up phase, the top phase, and then it will be having one more atom exactly at the center of the bottom phase. So if an atom has 8 atoms present at each of the 8 corners, and along with those 8 atoms, if it has 2 atoms exactly present at the center of any 2 opposite phases. Okay, so there is a 2 opposite phases, the up phase, top phase, and the bottom phase. This type is called end centered unit cell. End centered unit cell. So first, a primitive unit cell has 8 atoms present in 8 corners. Body centered, it has 8 atoms present in 8 corners along with 1 atom exactly at the center of its body. Face centered, it has 8 atoms present in 8 corners, and along with that it has 6 atoms present in the 6 phases at the center. End centered has 8 atoms present in the 8 corners and 2 atoms opposite exactly to the present at the center of any 2 opposite phases. So this is about our types of unit cells. So these are the 4 unit cells which you quite oftenly find in a crystalline solid. So now we come to end of this types of unit cell and crystal lattice. Like this channel for more videos and subscribe for this channel. Thank you for watching.